Hi, everybody. It's Linda G, and today I have Michelle Clare with me.
Hi,
She's
Linda.
a psychic medium, and she's going to talk about her life. She had an NDE, several NDEs experiences. She's going to talk about your soul plan. And by the way, I had a reading with her, and my daughter found it because I had it private on my YouTube. And my daughter thought I had forgot to put up a show. And she listened to it and said, Holy cow, you got my brother dead on, you got a bunch of stuff dead on. So anyway, so I say it was a good reading. So anyway, and she also has a little special coming up, so she'll let you guys know. So Michelle, you have the stage.
Oh, thank you, Linda. I am honored and excited to be here with you today. Thank you for having me. I do love to talk about spiritual world because we forget in our human form, right? That we
Yeah.
are we are souls who are actually having a human experience, and that doesn't mean it's pretty and feels good, but it's also part of what our soul is wanting to do to evolve. And so I'll just talk a little bit about my journey. I started having mediumship experiences when I was 12. My grandfather had passed away, and he and I were still communicating. So I was raised Catholic, and I would tell my mom, Grandpa says, and my mom would say, that's what you think he would say if he was still here. And so I quickly realized he wasn't communicating with everyone in the way that we were. So it kind of became my own private conversation with Grandpa. Years later, my grandma passed, and the same situation occurred. And once again, I shared with my mom, Grandma says, and she said, that's what you think she'd say if she was still here. So
Yeah.
it was very much just a private journey. And I think this is very common for a lot of people who become mediums. But what then really started opening up more were my NDE. So my near-death experiences. The first one happened in April of 2000. And at that point in my life, I was newly married, no kids. We were in a hospital visiting my sister-in-law who had just had a baby that day. And I went out in the hallway to talk to her RN, who happened to be a friend from high school. As I was speaking with her, I had a massive seizure, which I had never had before. I have never had since. And what I remember is talking to her, and then my eyes are open, and I am laying in this beautiful white room where every wall, there were walls, but they were made out of like cells or molecules that were each radiating light and love. They appeared to be alive and almost breathing. And I look up, and I am laying with my head in my grandma's lap. And she was the youngest, most beautiful version of her that I could remember, smiling so sweetly at me. I felt so safe, literally so held, so completely understood. And as I was laying in this truly blissful, timeless space, I looked up next to my grandma, and there was a 12-foot angel standing next to her. And I remember just being almost drawn into her energy. And having been raised Catholic, I believed in angels. And of course, I immediately went to look for her feather wings because, like my statues back here, I wanted to see these feather wings. What I realized was they were made of light, and
Yeah.
they actually seemed to span eternity. Like I never actually got to the end of them. And they reminded me of the aurora borealis, the way they would move, and they were iridescent and translucent, and just the colors. As I looked at her, I thought in my head, what is your name? And she answered me. She said, my name's Madeline, and I'm one of your guardian angels. And I
12
was,
foot tall.
yes, huge. And I was surprised because I didn't know anything about telepathic communication either at this point in my life. So I was a little bit startled and happily surprised that she could tell what I was thinking. I am just laying in this beautiful, peaceful realm, happy, happy as can be, beyond happy, blissful, right?
Right.
And the next thing I know, I hear someone yelling, code, code, code. So I had quit breathing during the seizure, and I was in the hospital. So they were calling the code team. And the next thing I know, I am back in my body, and it felt so dense and so heavy. I went from feeling like a feather to a 2,000 pound block of cement.
And they don't know why you had that seizure.
No, they admitted me into the hospital, which was convenient since I was right there, right? And they no, they did scans, they did heart monitoring. They never found the answer, and I never had another one.
Did they try to put you on drugs like phenobarb and stuff to prevent any future grand mal or no?
No, not
Because
no.
my girlfriend, her daughter was an ER nurse, and she had a couple of grand mals out of the blue,
Hmm.
and then it dissipated. That was it.
Yeah. It was literally the only one I've ever had. And in hindsight, what I realized, I mean, there were lessons in each near-death experience. I learned lessons. And in this one, well, I would also like to say at this point in time, in April of 2000, I don't even know the term near-death experience. So I know I had an experience that was more vivid than my daily life, but I don't know what to call this. So I have no container for this. But what I will say I learned was, heaven knew I was coming. My grandma and guardian angel were right there waiting for me when even I didn't know I was going to go visit them. I learned truly about angels being real, about each of us having guardian angels assigned to walk with us through this lifetime. And that I really got to understand what the timelessness of the eternal space is.
Wow. Wow. So then what happened?
Well,
That
so
affected you.
yeah. Oh, it absolutely did. I think it was very much an awakening, not just to the heavenly realm, but the angelic realm. And so with that, it took me a couple weeks. I told my mom about it. My mom believed me. She just didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Right. And so then I kind of put it on the shelf and moved on with my life. My next near-death experience happens in May of 2006. And at this point in my life, I have three little kids, a 5-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, and a 6-week-old infant. And after I had had my son, I had a lot of complications. So I was in the hospital the majority of the 4 weeks following it. So at about 6 weeks out, they said, hey, we need to do a DNC, which is a procedure where they clear out the uterus.
Yeah.
And this will be outpatient, 45 minutes. It'll take care of this. You can finally go home. And I was ready to just be done with all of this illness that I was going through. So I agreed to it. The night before, I had a pit in my stomach and I knew I should not go through with it. I felt sick. And yet I was like, nope, this is it. 45 minutes, I'll be done. I get to stay home. The next day I went in and I had had anesthesia before. Whenever I've had it, it was just a blank for me. I didn't have dreams, visions, nothing. It was
Right.
just
Right.
check out. So I remember counting backwards for the anesthesiologist. And the next awareness that I have is I look over and my beautiful 102-pound white German Shepherd, who had passed away a couple years before, walks into the operating room, lays her head on my gurney, and looks at me, which was what she would do every night when I was sleeping, like check on me, right? And we are gone. And we are on this phenomenal beach. And this beach has colors, sounds, emotions, everything on this beach, every piece of sand, every drop of water is radiating this light and love from
Right.
the inside out. And I like to
And the
just
colors are not like what you see in human form.
no, they're so much more vivid and there are colors we don't have here. And so I'm looking at her and she looks like she's about two, really healthy, shiny coat. Once again, we're telepathically communicating. She's happy that I'm there and we are running on this beach and we're just running and running. And at some point, I start to notice we're not getting hot, we're not getting tired, we're not getting thirsty. And I start to become aware that there is something different going on. And here's the funny thing about this near death experience. Human Michelle, I hate to run. If I tell my friends, if you see me running, call 911, that is not me like going for a jog, right? And here
I
I
like that joke. If you find me on a jogging trail dead, believe me, I was killed someplace else and dropped off there.
literally, literally. And so here I am, though, on this amazing beach, running with my dog, blissful, happy, truly in that timeless space. And I remember noticing that it only felt like there was each breath and each step. I was so present with each breath and each step.
Amazing.
It was unbelievable. As I'm on this beautiful beach with my dog, I hear my 6-week-old son calling to me. He was actually at the house with my mom. And so I go to him, and he is letting me know he is scared because he knows I'm getting ready to leave. And I remember saying to him, I'm not going to leave you. I'm going to find a way to stay. And I did not know what to do. So I started praying and I started saying, I need help. It's not my time. My kids still need me. In that moment, I was transported back into the operating room. Jesus came in. So, being raised Catholic, I always believed in Jesus, but
Was he like you saw in how you pictured, or a little different?
a little different than I pictured. And not only that, like Jesus didn't come in needing me to confess or pray to him. Jesus came in as my best friend.
Yeah,
Jesus, like there was not the status difference that I guess I would have imagined
right.
in my human form. He literally comes in, the operating room lights up in this white golden light. And the next thing I know, I'm waking up in post-op, and my 45-minute procedure had turned into a 3.5 hour emergency surgery because they had ruptured my uterus in multiple places and
So
missed
that
an.
you had a hysterectomy.
No, they were just cleaning it out. They were just cleaning out the uterus, but they ruptured it in two places. I had to have a hysterectomy 2 years later from the damage.
Okay.
Yeah, and they ruptured it in two places, so the infection got spread into my body. They missed an artery by a millimeter. And so again, I'm in the hospital now for another week after that on IV antibiotics with fevers and becoming septic. But 3 days after this happened, the emergency surgeon who was called in came into my room and he sat down and he said, I have to tell you, there was someone watching over you that day. You should not be here.
Whoa. So you crashed
Well,
on the
my
table?
medical records were incomplete when I received them from the hospital.
Oh, they
So,
didn't want to get sued.
yeah. So we don't know the details, but my medical records, which I requested, maybe 6 months later when I was finally halfway decent again, were not complete.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Did it take you a long time to recover though?
It did. It took
Yeah.
me 4 months just to get back to 80% of my functioning ability.
But that beauty, I had I know it was an NDE when I was 8 years old because I popped over on the other side and I saw Jesus and I was in a place, like you said, it's like crystal. It's so beautiful. And as a medium, when I read other people with their families, not
Mhm.
all families go to the same place, but I see, I don't know if you've seen these, but these magnificent temples. It's
Mhm.
not necessarily a place to worship, it's just these brilliant buildings that they build. And one had this auditorium where all these people can gather and listen to famous Beethoven or whoever they feel like. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So then I come back, I recover from that. Once again, I don't know the term near-death experience. I know I had another extremely vivid experience, and I just get lost in motherhood because I have three little kids. I had been ill, and I don't know what to do with this. So I'm not really talking to people about it. And I
Yeah.
put it back on the back burner.
Sorry. Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. And then November 1st, 2011. So for people who not like numbers, 11/1/11, I have my third near-death experience. And at that point in time, my kids are 5, 8, and 10. And I had 14-foot ceilings in this house. So I was climbing up a ladder because about 12 feet off the ground, I had battery operated candles that would just turn on every night. Something I had done 25 times, probably. My oldest was at school, my younger two were at home. And as I got towards the top of the ladder, I felt it start to shift. And as it started to shift, I thought, this is going to hurt. And in that second, I was ripped out of my body, not in a painful way, but fast way, like bungee cord ripped out of my body, turned around, facing my body in the ladder, suspended in the air. And I was standing with these three people that I didn't know, but they felt like dear friends or family. I had an Asian man standing with me, and an Egyptian woman, and a Hawaiian man. And as I was in this, once again, beautiful, blissful, timeless space, they said to me, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay or do you want to go? And I remember At that moment, this beautiful angel, a different angel than Madeline, comes in dressed in red and gold. And when I see that angel, there it was an immediate knowing, oh, this angel is here to shift something so I can stay, or they're going to take me home.
Wow. Were you even semi thinking, not again?
It wasn't even in my awareness. It was just kind of like, if anything, it was probably like, oh, here I am again. You know,
Right, right.
but no, not that I'm aware of. And so as I was looking at this scene, I was wondering, it was in my human mind a little bit, saying like, how do I have forever to decide what I want to do when my body is going to hit the floor in a second? I remember kind of going back and forth, like, isn't this interesting? Like nobody's rushing me. Nobody's like, what do you want to do? Hurry up, right? I'm watching my body in the ladder like a freeze frame in a movie. And then I saw my younger two kids. And as I saw my younger two kids, I was like, oh, I need to stay. And as I made this
Saw
decision,
them like in their spiritual form or saw them?
saw them in my kitchen.
Okay. Oh,
Right.
totally freaked out. Totally freaked out.
Not yet, because my body hadn't hit the floor and the ladder hadn't fallen. So I'm not even sure. It was more like they were in their own space. You know what I mean? In the kitchen, they were actually making their Christmas list for Santa. And so, as I make this decision that I need to stay, I am downloaded with a lot of information. And some of it still gets revealed to me today. But a lot of it was this, okay, but if you're saying you need to go back and you need to do your mediumship and help people in the way that you can help them. They told me that my marriage would most likely end in divorce and that I would have more trauma ahead. So I clearly remember being in this heavenly zone, being told, hey, it's not going to be all rainbows and unicorns.
No, they do that. Yeah.
And I remember saying, okay, send me in, I'll go back. So I end up falling off of the ladder. I hit the back of my head on the corner of my granite island. So I had a 5.5 inch skull fracture, a brain bleed. I lost my equilibrium, my taste, my smell, and part of
Did the
my.
boys know to call 911?
So that, yes, we're going to get to that. So here's the thing. I get taken to the hospital. They decide I literally survived the fall by 1/2 inch because that was how much they missed my brain. I missed my brain stem by. That was how much the angel missed my head, moved it. So my first one I survived by a or my second one I survived by 1 millimeter. The third one I survived by 1/2 inch.
Wow.
So I'm in ICU, I'm in the hospital. Finally, I get out, I get home. My youngest son, Josh, he was 5, and then my daughter, Sophie, was home. She's 8, was feeling really bad. He had tried to call 911. His call did not go through, but we thought, he got nervous. Maybe he dialed 991. My daughter Sophie's call went through. So in December of 2012, my son Josh started getting really depressed and he said, I didn't need to be there. I did nothing to help you. And we would say, but you opened the door for the policeman. Like we're trying to build him back up.
Right.
The end of January, my grandfather, who passed away when I was 12 years old, never walked this planet with my son, comes through to me in the most intense, vivid mediumship visit I had ever had. And he came in and he started talking to me about my accident and my head injury. And he started talking to me about my son and how good he is with electronics. And before he left, he said to me, you need to get the 911 recording. There's something on there you should know. And I thought, what? So I didn't even know I could get the 911 recording. Like I had seen them played on the news here and
Yeah.
there, you know. So I go down and I order it. It takes about 2 weeks for this recording to come in. I finally
Uh-huh.
get it. I put it in to play it. I hear them say 911, what's your emergency? And in his little broken voice, my son Josh says, Sophie, what do I say? And he laid the phone down. So for the next minute and a half, you can hear the operators trying to get their attention. And then he says, I'm going to go push the panic alarm on the house. And my daughter Sophie says, hold on, let me try calling 911. She hangs up, she calls 911, and her call goes through too.
So
When
were you able to tell them, hey, honey, you did call?
he came home from kindergarten that day, and I literally said to him, I said, Josh, your call went through. Help was coming. And it was like I lifted this 5,000 pound weight off this little five
A
year old
sweet
boy.
energy he is, huh?
Yeah.
How
And
old is he now, by the way?
he's about to be 19.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is he still a sweetheart or is he looking at you like, I wish you would have left? No, I'm just kidding.
No, no, no. He's still a sweetheart. I think
Okay.
we've all come to the conclusion that I'm going to be here till I'm about 97. So they might
Yes.
still be happy that I'm here.
Yeah. But my gosh, three NDEs.
Yes. So
That,
as that, and I would like to say this, they were correct. So what I found out in hindsight, once again, I didn't have the term life guides. I didn't know this was NDEs. I knew again, vivid experience. I chose to stay. Later on, I realized these are my life guides, but they were correct. My 25-year marriage ended in divorce. My life partner, who I fell in love with after that, passed of suicide a year and a half ago. And so the trauma that they told me was coming if I chose to stay truly did occur.
but your kids are okay.
My kids are great.
That's the most important thing.
100%. They anchored me here through two of
Girl,
the.
you look fabulous. You don't look like you've been suffering at all. You know, I
Oh,
some people start looking haggard. Girl, you glowing.
no, thank you.
So this is wonderful. Any other after that, or was that the last one?
Yeah, that was the last near-death experience. But what that did was that really launched me on. So my grandpa coming through and talking about the 911 recording really made me understand the value of mediumship, how it changes people's lives,
Oh,
how,
yeah.
and I hadn't had that before, but because he came through, someone that I trusted, and talked about one of the most precious people in my life, my son, I started to see the value in it. So then I went to counseling, and as spirit would have it, I was telling my counselor, like, hey, I'm talking to, dead people, loved ones on the other side. And she said, what a gift. Let's find you a mentor. And so that was how I actually started on my mediumship journey. I mentored for 4 years, and then I started doing this professionally.
But whoever mentored you probably said, because you know it, you can work it in and you can work hard to tap into it, but it probably came a little more natural for you.
Absolutely.
So do
Absolutely.
you hear them or do you see them? What do you get when you?
Yeah. So for the most part, actually, my information comes through as feelings. And I like to describe it to people as looking at someone that you know, and you know what they're going to say before they say it. So sometimes they'll give me a visual. Sometimes I'll get words. Sometimes I will physically feel things too in my body, depending on maybe they passed of a heart attack or, different things,
You know,
COPD.
yeah.
Right. And so I'll get that information, but the majority of it is really an energetic telepathic transmission that I translate into words. But it's amazing the way that it works because, I will sometimes get exactly the sentence that they would always say. And I'm always in awe of working with spirit. It is always amazing. It is always a blessing.
Wow, that's amazing. That's fantastic. There's a very famous rock musician that died. I didn't really follow his work, but he came to me after he died and
Mhm.
said, give this message to my family. But I didn't know anybody. I knew some people in the business, but I wasn't sure how I could contact. And he ended up on life support and he was in the hospital. And the band was there and some other people and his family was there. And I finally read a client who knew his daughter. So she got her on the phone three-way. And she said, she was a little bit leery about all that. And she said, is there something you can tell me that my dad, basically like I'll know it's him.
Mhm.
And it was so funny because he said, like I could see him on life support. He said, why the F are all these people in my room?
Oh,
She said, that's my dad to the T. That's my dad. That's something I could sure he would have been upset that so many people were, because he was kind of a private person and
right.
he didn't need people watching him. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love
So those
that.
little messages really are fantastic.
They really are. And when people are like, okay, give me evidence, it's not really going to be their social security number. It's going to be that. It's going to be something
Yes.
that they always did that you understand, connect, and relate to.
Do you sometimes even smell cigarettes like they used to be smokers?
Absolutely. Or cigars, or sometimes if they're really like somebody who gardened a lot, I'll smell flowers. So I
Yeah.
will get a sense too if I can connect that to something they did in life.
Do you have an aha experience with your mediumship that you remember?
Oh my goodness.
I'm
Yeah.
sure you have a lot, but
Yeah, I do have a lot. You know, one of my favorite that I love to share is I was reading for this woman and she was an RN. Her mother was in hospice. She had 8 kids. She was literally getting run into the ground by life, right? And as I was reading for her, Mother Teresa came in, and I was kind of like, whoa, well, Mother Teresa's here. And she's like, oh, well, that makes sense. I worked with her in Calcutta. So they actually had a personal human relationship in this life.
isn't that something?
And Mother Teresa came into her and said, you basically, you need to serve yourself first. She said, if I had lost sight of serving myself, I would have never been able to serve others. And when I say that, I mean it's service as in taking care of yourself, eating, sleeping, giving yourself time to meditate or walk or whatever it is that you need to do. And so she came in with this beautiful message for her about you are being run into the ground. You've got to find a way to take care of you so that you can be of service to others.
That is so true. What did she feel when that message came?
Oh, it just tears. She absolutely
She
resonated.
understood.
Mhm.
You know, I have a dear friend that just recently died. I don't know if you know the actress Olivia Hussey.
I've heard of
She
her. Yeah.
played Juliet. She portrayed Mother Teresa.
Mm.
She did a movie on her, and that was one of her favorites, was Mother
Oh,
Teresa. So I hope they got together on the other side.
I was going to say, and that's probably her way of blowing you a kiss from heaven right now through me because of all of the
Of all the saint, or the well, she's gonna get sainthood, or do you know?
she is already a saint. Yep.
Oh wow. Okay. So, oh, okay. So then you started with the mediumship and you
Mhm.
concentrate on that. And did you get it to where you're taking care of yourself?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Yes. And so I worked as a medium. Every step I took towards a medium kind of caused more of a division or distance in my marriage. So after years, we did end up separating and then I fell in love. And then that
And
was, yeah,
his destiny was different though. But how many years did you get with him?
2.
Well, you know, at least you know what it's like to be in love.
Absolutely. And with that, with his passing, not only was I devastated as a psychic medium, right? You do say, how did I not see this coming? How did I not know? Right. So we have the same level of grief and loss as everyone else. And then there's probably what everyone says. How did I not know? What did I miss? And so what this did for me was this really caused me to start diving into soul plans. And what was my soul plan? What was my
Yes, I want you to talk about soul plans.
Yes. What is my soul plan? What was my soul agreement? How did this happen to me? How did this happen to him? Right? All of those questions that people ask in these situations. And the other thing I always like to say about this is with all of the knowledge I have, with all of the years I had worked as a medium, there was still no way for me to bypass the human grief. So although I had a bigger knowing and I knew he was at home in that heavenly realm and I knew he had been welcomed with light and love and compassion, I still go through the process. And I just want people to know that because it
And it's
is,
okay to grieve.
yeah, we need to. You need to honor it. And there's no bypass. There isn't. Even I
No.
don't want one. But so I started diving into our soul plan. And actually, let me just start before that with how I found out he transitioned. So I was out of town when this happened. He and I had called and texted. He sounded great. I had texted him when I was leaving the airport, no response. I knew he had depression, and sometimes he would turn off his phone and his computer for a day or two and sleep it off and then wake up and rejoin the world. And at this point in time, I get home, his younger daughter was living with him who really didn't want to have too much to do with me. So when she was home, I didn't go over there. I let them have their space. And I went by his place. I saw his car and her car outside, so I assumed he was at home in his room, kind of sleeping through this time. We had a party we were supposed to go to the next night. So I had called his work. They said he called in sick. So once again, I took like, okay, we're good. Well, not good, but he was safe, right? So I go to the party. I get home around midnight. It was just at a friend's house, and I'm getting ready for bed. And as I am standing in my bathroom, brushing my teeth, getting ready, he literally comes in behind me. I can tell you the exact outfit he was in. He looked at me and he said, "You sure are beautiful." And when he said that, my body started to give away because I knew this was mediumship. And I barely get to the bed. And I feel him lay down behind me. He puts his arm over me and he said, "I wanted to be the one to tell you." And that was how I found out he had transitioned.
Oh my God. So you were just blubber. You just were, oh, now when did you get the official statement?
So I texted his sister, and about 6 in the morning, I got a text that said, "I'm sorry to be the one to tell you he took his life."
But they weren't going to let you know right away, probably because of that daughter, right?
Yeah, whatever the situation was, I was definitely not on the radar to be told.
Oh, I'm so glad he came to you.
Yeah, I am too, because I don't know how or when I would have ever been contacted otherwise. It was something I never expected, right? Because first of all, it's the last thing you want, no matter who you are, because you don't want, I knew it was mediumship, which is why my body started giving out. I literally couldn't even stand. And yet at the same time, what a blessing for me to get to feel and see him bright,
And
happy.
no, he's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what, tell me about Soul Plan.
Yeah, so with the soul plan, my healing journey hasn't looked like everyone else's. I tried counseling a little bit and I felt like I was counseling the counselor. So I was like, I don't think this is a fit for me. And I've done a bunch of different things. But what I really wanted to know was, why did this happen? Did I sign up for this? Like, what is going on with this? So I had done some life between life regression work where we can go back and we can find out what our soul plan is for this lifetime. And in that process, what I really discovered was a couple amazing things. So, number one, he was not destined to leave by suicide, but it was very likely for him in his soul plan. So, it wasn't the only exit. And it was something, though, and we know this, right? People come in with depression, people come in with addictions or whatever. We know that there are people that are more likely to leave that way, but it
Was it in
wasn't.
his family at all, or do you know?
The depression was, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so with that being said, I realized, it was very likely he was going to leave that way, even though it was not guaranteed. But then when I really dove into our soul agreement, what I understood was so beautiful, that he actually stayed longer so that I could feel that level of love from him. And that on a soul level, I had agreed saying, if you choose to do this because of who I am and how I work in this world, I'll be able to help even more people with it. And so the truth was, we had this experience out of love. I felt loved like I never had in my 25-year marriage. He felt loved in a way he never had. Yeah, and it's really interesting to me because we used to talk about it, and we'd say, for some reason this didn't work out. I want us to leave still loving each other. And I think about that today and I think that's literally how it ended. Like, we still loved each other.
You got a taste of that unconditional love.
Yeah,
Yeah. Can I tell you a story real quick?
please.
I was reading at a woman's house. It's in my book. I was reading at a woman's house, a friend of mine now, and I read her, her daughter, and her mother, and there was another lady there. And I kept seeing this young man, and he kept coming in. I said, "Well, who's this? Is this a brother or a cousin or a nephew? Did you lose someone that was kind of young?" And they're like, "No, we have no idea what you're talking about." And he showed up for each person. He didn't give me his name. He didn't say, "But I'm this person." But I probably, because I was so off by them saying, "No, there's nobody that we know."
Right.
So about a couple of weeks later, she shows up at my office and she says, "I know who you were talking about." And I said, "What?" She goes, "My son had committed suicide and he'd been gone for like 2 weeks." She said, "We would not hear from him because he's an outdoors person and he was up in college in Wyoming or something." And so it wasn't something we would fret about. But the smell from the room caused them to have the door open, and he had committed suicide. But
Wow.
he showed up. He
Mm.
showed up in that house, I'm telling you. And it could be he was a little weak. It also could be that I was thinking in human form, and it's like, if they don't know, because how the heck was I going to say, oh, this is your son? I would have never said that,
Oh,
because you
right.
don't want to give them the news like that.
Well, and that's what I was kind of feeling, is that most likely they weren't meant to hear that from you.
Yes. Yes. So, oh, this is exciting. So, but the soul plan
Yes.
is about what you were supposed to do with that person. I've had so much heartbreak. I don't know. I can't tell you what, except for my children, what unconditional love is.
Yeah,
I love a
absolutely.
lot of people, but I don't, and talk about suicide. That's all I ever used to think about until I went through cancer. Then I appreciated my life and never thought of it again. But
Wow.
that depression runs in the family.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's what's really important to take away from the soul plan is that I'm not the only one here on planet Earth with a soul plan. We all have one. And
Right.
so when we start talking about that, we start to realize that we are souls that have free will and we are humans that have free will. So our soul chose to be here. We weren't forced to come. So we had free will in coming here. And we also have free will in how we choose to be here on this planet right now. And the soul plan is about 60 to 70% a blueprint. So it's like, say you buy a house. Okay, we know what the structure is. We can kind of change this, paint the wall, hang some pictures, create a new doorway if we want. But a lot of the structure is already there. And then we have 34 to 40% of free will, what we do with it when we're here on planet Earth.
Even free will with your life, what you do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, have they talked to you at all about the weather and changes on the earth with weather?
Yeah, I mean, it's undeniable, right? It
Yes.
is undeniable. It doesn't even matter who you are. You just can't deny. We had this conversation before where I was like, it's been 80 degrees all month of February in Arizona. It's
It's
worse.
absolutely it's uncanny. And my guides told me a couple of years ago, they were telling me, the earth's not angry at us. The earth is adjusting to
Right.
what we've done. But also be careful because there's a lot of flooding and heat.
Absolutely.
Mexico just went through a real bad time with heat. So, but I don't see the end of times. I don't know about you.
I don't either. And I will say this very often when the earth is adjusting and cleansing itself, it does it through fire and water and heat. And we just saw the horrible, horrible fires in California, right? And we just saw,
Yeah.
so I do believe we are all humanity, the planet, everything is going through a change at this point in time. But I agree with you. I don't believe we are in Armageddon or getting close to this
Right.
revelation, everything ending soon. And a lot of the reason why is this. When I talk to my spirit team, I've asked them, I'm like, do we need to be afraid? Right? What's going on? And the answer was like, look, Michelle, for every human on this planet, for every animal on this planet, there are angels, life guides, and loved ones in spirit. So we need to really realize how many trillions and trillions of beings of light are holding the space for this planet to succeed, for
Yes.
humanity to come together, for humanity to grow through these challenging times.
We're liquidating somewhat, but it's going to be we're going to end up being better. I'm not sunshine lollipops because listen, I'm going to be 72 this year. I lived through being afraid about nuclear and getting under the desk. I went through John F. Kennedy's death. I was just a little girl, but I saw the terrible, heartache. And John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King. I went through the Loma Prieta earthquake. I was working as a nurse, and they had to go in the bridge and cut a mother in half to get her son out. And, I've lived through so much horrible 9/11. That was altering. And I know this resistance that Earth does is part of how we're supposed to grow.
Right.
So they just keep handing it to us but I will tell you, as far as volcanoes are concerned, There's a
Mhm.
lot of volcanoes going off, but they're
Mhm.
not Armageddon going off. They're bleeding. They're
Right.
bleeding. Because I don't see a huge Armageddon volcanic thing. I
I
just
don't see
don't.
that either. I really don't see that either. And I would say when we go back to the soul plan and us on a soul level, we come to planet Earth for the contrast. When we're at home in that heavenly realm and everything's beautiful, it's hard to understand and really get into the contrast. So our souls choose to come here to experience part of this as we can learn and grow and evolve. Our individual feelings feed into the collective, right? And so that's where we've got to go start noticing, are we making choices out of fear or are we making choices out of love? And I like to use this example. I can eat a salad for lunch. I can eat it because I'm afraid I'm going to gain weight, or I can eat it because it's good for my body. It is literally the same salad. I have not
Right,
changed on it, but I've completely changed the energy that I'm bringing it in with.
right, right. Yeah, salads. I enjoy a good salad. I
Yeah,
used to. I don't know. I kind of lost the taste for sweets like I used to. I wonder if it's getting old. I don't know.
I
But
don't know.
anyway, you offer classes for people?
I do, and I'm actually coming out with a Life Guides course. It's a live course. It starts on April 16th, and it will be every Wednesday night for 4 weeks. And this is going to be live on Zoom online. And they can connect with me, and we can work to get them to connect with their own guides for themselves, because I do believe this is something every human has the capability of doing. And I would love to offer your viewers a discount. And the so they can go to my website. I think you said you'll put it in the show notes, but I
I'll put
could,
it in the michellleclaire.com
yeah, go to my website, michelleclaire.net under
or
events.
.net, sorry.
Yes, .net. And the discount coupon is Spirit Guides, all capital with an S on the end, 25.
Yeah, and get the discount. Hey, is there any other events you're doing coming up or?
All of those are on my website. I have a lot of online events right now, and I do some in person in the Phoenix area where I'll do group readings and things like that.
How did you survive the pandemic?
You know, I did okay. I did well with it. I
Okay.
will tell you what it was interesting to me because never in the history of the earth have people been held back from their connection to their religion, whether it was a synagogue or a church or whatever, right? And when I asked Spirit about this on a bigger level, in that period of time, people were asked to make their own connection to source, their own connection,
Oh,
right?
interesting.
Never before on this earth had that happened where we weren't able to go to our place of worship. And so that was one of the things that did come out of this was it was like people were going home to figure out who they were, how they were going to show up in this world, and what is my connection to source.
It was so weird. That's another thing like 9/11. It was just so weird. The whole thing was so weird. And I
It,
know my cousin died. I know a lot of people that died from it, but
yeah,
um I just had a great time. That's when I started doing more Zoom because you get to talk to people and it was fun.
yeah, it actually, I got to connect with a lot of amazing folks during that time. People had more time, right? They weren't driving 3 hours to and from work each day, and it was a very interesting time to move through. And it's also when you look at what it did for humanity and our consciousness, it brought a lot of awareness to people. It also showed us the power of division, right? Because
Oh,
things were which we see every day. Welcome to the contrast of planet Earth, right? But you're vaccinated, you're not, you have a mask on, you don't. And it was just like, okay, it's like there's this part where we're saying we need to be on team humanity. We are
yeah.
all citizens of the universe, right? And kind
Yes.
of working together for that greater good, our own
It's
personal good.
very hard for, especially in America, to work together lately. But I see a day of us. I think we're actually kind of gathering together right now because there's so many other things taking place and people are worried. So especially with the prices of food and stuff. It's
Absolutely. I agree with you on that. And I think it's really important when we talk about free will. Like, one of the things I totally want to leave your viewers with is this: our perception and our awareness is everything when it comes to free will. So you're starting to, whatever it is that you're working through in this life right now, try to choose it from a place of love and try
yeah,
be aware of your thoughts, kind of like that salad example. Am I eating it because I'm afraid I'm going to gain weight, or am I eating it because I love my body and it's
yes.
right? So the same with your body, mind, and spirit. The thoughts that are coming in, you've got to monitor them, just like you shouldn't eat the whole box of chocolates. You probably don't need to eat everything that's on the news.
Yeah. Hey, listen, the other thing is, what was I going to tell you that, but with this new beginning that's beginning, I see a cleansing of the earth. I see things, people coming together.
Mhm.
Could be even be because of some earth shifting, some things happening.
Right.
But the thing that I learned the most, some people come, there's a lot of people asking me like to be on the show and stuff.
Mhm.
And you got to look at the reason you think you want to do something. Like I always wanted to be in show business, not because I liked acting as much as I wanted to be famous.
Right.
So I had a psychic reader who she's deceased now. She was so good. She prophesized my two sons coming. I thought she was crazy. I really did. No way. And so she told me, she said, Linda, I see people seeking you out. I see you kind of, like being famous, like people are seeking you out. I see you writing a book. And I thought, then I thought, well, maybe it's because Hollywood discovers me.
Yeah.
And then one day I'm standing in my bedroom, and that man that speaks to me spoke to me in my right ear, and he says, you're going to do a YouTube channel. And in that moment, I said, what? No, I don't want to get up and brush my hair. And like you said, if I don't run,
Right.
and he said, Linda, you'll help calm them down.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know about YouTube. My son helped me do a YouTube. I sit there, I'm just talking with whatever they ask, and it started to build. And then my son one day said, Mom, you can monetize YouTube. I said, okay. But the thing that I liked about it was helping others.
Right.
The feedback was so beautiful.
Right.
So, to all those who want to start a YouTube channel, be sure to make it about helping others, because they feel that, they know if you're there just because you just feel like doing it and you're not really interested in others. They know that. The
Yeah, you can
people who
feel
watch these shows know it.
Mhm. You can feel the energy, and that is true. And isn't that like a verse in the Bible? Do all things with love. I mean,
Yes,
truly, do all things with love. Whether
with
it's
love.
if it's
And
eating.
and prayers work. Let me tell you, I'm praying. Listen, I got a hit from the Pope back when he was first sick. I
Mhm.
didn't have a good feeling. He told me, and I could be wrong, hopefully I'm wrong. He said, I will be leaving in the Ides of March.
Mm,
So I just, but it's weird, some of the hits I get. I'll
right.
just get it out of the blue. Even from past presidents, they'll tell me something like, whoa. So, okay, so they can get on your chat. And how about appointments? Are you open for appointments?
I am open for appointments. They can book those on my website. They'll see my schedule. They can pick the right day and time and session for them.
Well, okay, we got it all down. The soul plan. I might look that up. Check
I
out that.
actually, yes, I have a course about it online, so it's already pre-recorded. They can also go to my courses if they wanted to take that.
Can you look at a person's soul plan?
I can. I
Okay.
love to do that in readings because
Okay.
that's where we get the answers.
You kind of know, why am I going in this direction?
Hmm.
Oh, that's beautiful. All right, girlfriend, this was fun.
It was so fun. Thank you so much for having me.
You be sure to let me know how your calendar blew up.
I will. I will. And
As
I'm
I
gonna,
told you, we had taped the 20 minutes or whatever that I had. And my daughter thought it was a tape that I was supposed to share with everybody. she said, Mom, you have this thing sitting here. And I said, oh, that's my reading. I said, and she said, oh, and she listened to it. She came back and said, wow, okay, that was good. You got some real good points on there. So,
Oh, thank you.
okay, sweetie. Well, I'll let you know when this gets posted.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. And I look forward to connecting with you again sometime.
Oh, well, you're going to get so busy you will forget who I am.
I will not. No, we're going to do this again. It'll be fun.
That's like me and Annette Ware, just like two peas in the pod. I swear to God. I don't even know how I found out about her, but
Wow.
it just
Meant to be.
grew. And it's like, she said that she had me in between someone else. And even when she called, or I called her, she called me, she said, I should have booked her last because this is going to run over. She knew that. So we couldn't shut up.
Oh,
All right, girlfriend, you take care.
you too. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.